Okay, we're back on top now. I just want to go through and systematically undo all the connectors. Now look, there are a number of them. They do change their formats. So I can't just say do it this way and it will work for you. But just a bit of common sense, go around and see if you can open them all up. There's usually always just a squeeze point somewhere and they pop open. Don't break them. That one, if they've got a little locking piece in them, you just need to pop that first before you can squeeze it. The one here down to the turbo is a bit of a different one. You've got to push that in and then you can pull it out. So now we can get that wiring out of the way. We'll get this cover off. I'm just going to keep working my way around. I just want to flick it all up over this way. Now we've got the wiring that comes up from behind the engine. It's got a couple of clips that it clips into. Just carefully pull those out. And there's another plug at the back here as well. And this one again has one of these big wired pieces where we just squeeze it and it will pop. Now with these injectors, how they're sitting in there is like that. If you press up against there, you can then pull it off. So it's easy to come down with a screwdriver, just get in behind it, a little press, and then just a gentle pull. You shouldn't have to pull very hard to pop them off. And pull from the plug, not from the wiring. Do the coil. The throttle body. Now there is a earth lead here as well that we need to get. I'll get the O2 sensor as well. Now notice this one is a slide this out. So that comes up and comes away that way. Again, this is an earth lead that if it's a dodgy connection, your car won't run well at all. So another good point to check if you've got issues with it not running well. Now at this point I should be able to just peel all this up and out of the way. I'm just going to kind of push that out of the way so we can see what's going on here. So coolant hose here we just need to disconnect. I'll cheat and just bring my plug up there. Hopefully it comes off easily. Yep, and a bit of coolant. It's not going to cause me any issues. There's another coolant hose that comes from the back of the engine around here. Now you can take these off from the firewall, or you can take them off here. Look, it's either or. I prefer to take them off here because it just gives you a chance to check the condition of this, because this is often a point where they leak. It's a fairly new looking clamp on there, so that's good. This hose is choosing to be a little bit difficult on here. Let's see if we can just crack it loose. Don't want to damage it, but there we go. Look, you can see that clamp has really kind of crushed the end of that hose. And we'll have a closer look at that before we put it all back together. Okay, now I'm going to leave the fuel lines till last, just because it usually drips a little bit of fuel and makes a bit of a mess. But what I do want to do is get this evaporative line on. I can undo it there, or I can just come along and undo it at this point here. So here you give it a squeeze on the side, and then it's a lift up, and that can slide out, and I'm just going to leave it all attached like that. What I did notice, just while I'm here, is this little rubber. Now that is one of the seals for the injector plugs. So be careful, I didn't spot that falling out when I pulled it all apart. So definitely we'll put that back in before we put it together. Now with some of that wiring out of the way, it's a little bit easier to see where we need to get to here. There's 2 bolts on this front transmission mount. So we'll just undo those. Now this one's come out super oily, which probably is from oil changes, etc, etc. But with those 2 bolts now removed, I can just get this out of the way. I'm actually wanting it to drop through, but it's not dropping through for me too easily. Don't need to move it far anyway, I just want it out of the way. We can just stay there because I just want access to this bolt that's in here. Don't know if we can get that on the camera. Just want access to this bolt that's here. Now it's an 18mm. It's pretty easy to get a spanner on it now that everything has been taken out of the way. And it's super tight too. Just what you want. Now there's still plenty of bolts holding this engine and transmission together, so I'm not stressed by undoing this one just yet. The engine's not going to fall out on me or anything like that. I've cracked it open and I'm winding it out with my fingers nice and easily, which is awesome. So that's that bolt there, it's quite a long one. Now I'm just going to slip this transmission mount back into place because when I leave the transmission behind, I want something still supporting it. I don't know if the other 2 engine mounts are enough. Now I'm just going to put 2 bolts in there just loosely. Now I'm just going to zip underneath the car and I'm just going to run a screwdriver through where that bolt hole is. And I'm happy enough with that in terms of strength just to hold it. Because remember, we're not driving, it's just sitting there, and there is a mount over on this side here and there is a mount at the back there. Just make sure it feeds all the way through. It's just going to sit there like that. There's 2 bolts in there, that's perfect enough to hold it. I'm just going to move this out of the way to see if I can flex it over there. And just having a look at what bolts we've still got to go. So there's one that hides in behind this filter housing, which will be really hard to see. There's another one here and another one here. So I'm going to do this next one here as well, the difficult one, and then we'll leave these other 2 until I've got the engine supported. Now if I remove this thermostat housing, it'll give me a little bit more room here, but I'm going to see if I can do it without it. It's an 18mm. I've just cracked it, meaning the bolt that is. There's just not much room. I'm going to try a socket. So I can get a socket on there. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a ratchet on the end. I'm just going to pop this up and out of my way as well, just to give myself a little bit more room. Okay, now I was struggling with a socket to be able to fit a ratchet on the other side, so just going to have to persevere with this. And like the others, it appears once I've got it loosened off, I can get it with my fingers. There's that one coming out there. Now at this point, I'm not going to undo the next 2 bolts until I've got this supported by an engine crane.